The 6 terrorist plots Prince Harry's team claim make the UK less safe for his family.
The report details some quite alarming things. Terror plots, the threat from stalkers.
They say there are persistent, credible and dynamic threats to him.
Is he saying that the threat doesn't exist when he's in the States?
The security firm is saying that the risk here is more elevated.
So, will Meghan and the kids be coming here next week, or is the whole thing cancelled?
He is thinking very carefully.
If he were now to bring his wife and children, he's undermining his own argument that they're unsafe.
And we've been making calls to find out exactly how Harry's feeling about all of this.
Devastated. He will do everything in his power to protect his wife and children. He is terrified that something might happen to them.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Talk and Royals. Now, the reason why we're doing this episode is because we've received exclusive information regarding alleged terror plots against Prince Harry. And the reason why we're doing this is in relation to him coming to the UK next week and having told everybody initially that he was going to bring Meghan and the kids with him. And lines have blurred since that announcement. Because the government won't pay for his security still. And now we have this report. Chris, can you talk us through what the main points of this report are trying to convey?
Yeah, so everyone knows, or hopefully, if they're watching this, that Prince Harry is due in the UK for a series of engagements next week. The main engagement is to mark the 1 year to go anniversary of the Invictus Games, which is happening in Birmingham in 2027. Rather of a bit of surprise to us, I think we will acknowledge, is that they announced a couple of weeks ago that he was coming with Meghan and the kids. And we all thought, well, that means your security sorted then, because you always said it was too dangerous for Meghan and the kids to come here. And now it turns out that actually the security isn't sorted and Harry's having to rethink whether or not to bring Meghan and Archie and Lilibet. And what we have had sight of at ITV News is a report which was written by Harry's security team and sent to RAVEC. What's RAVEC? It's the committee which decides which royals and other senior politicians and celebrities get what kind of protection. The report details some quite alarming things. Terror plots, of 6 that it lists, 5 originated in the UK. It talks about the threat from stalkers. It talks about the fact that when in the UK, his security team that he pays for can't have guns, lethal weapons, as they call it. And therefore, it's coming from Harry's point of view, but it's making the case that there should be a review of Harry's security because there are these threats.
Okay, well, they've sort of said, look, they found he's under threat from 6 terrorist plots, 5 of which originated in the UK. Dozens of threats and potential attacks, includes an al-Qaeda document calling for the assassination of Prince Harry. They do go,
and that one came from the FBI, and the FBI, unless we're going to question their intelligence, the FBI got hold of that and sent it to Harry's security team and said there is a document on a closed Telegram channel, I think it was, that talks of the assassination of Prince Harry in the wider context of we should be targeting people who fought in Afghanistan, of which he was one.
So you sort of say extremists with grievances against Great Britain, including jihadists or others that oppose the Commonwealth, pose a credible threat and do not take his specific role into account. They said that he's been under threat since serving in Afghanistan in 2007 and 2008. Lone act of terrorism. There's a long list here, isn't there, Lizzie?
Yeah, and they say in this report that the risk to Harry is elevated when he's in the UK. He is the son, obviously, of the king. They say that the highest priority threat comes to him from what they call sort of grassroots or lone actors, which are much harder to predict. They say there are persistent, credible and dynamic threats to him. And they also look at sort of big, high-profile events that the Duke might attend, like, for example, the Invictus Games, which will be in Birmingham, as Chris says, in 2027. And they say that his attendance at those sorts of events can not only put a risk to the Duke, but also to others attending the event, and could therefore see potential to become a mass casualty threat.
Right, I've got loads of questions about this, actually, because I've had a look through the document. And there are certain questions I have, and I'm not sure they're ones that can be answered within this room, but I do think they're
we can discuss them.
They're questions worth posing. So, Is he somehow saying that the Metropolitan Police, the security services, MI5, MI6, for example, are aware of these, what they call credible threats, and are doing nothing about them? And the reason why I sort of say that is because surely our security services go through and look at threats against a number of individuals, and when they see them as being credible threats, they act accordingly. Is he somehow saying, because it's his security team that are calling these credible threats, is he somehow saying that our security services are aware of credible threats against him and doing nothing?
I don't think he is, because I don't think MI5 and MI6 would do that.
No.
Harry being fifth in line to the throne, I know he's left the royal family or left as a working member, but he's still in the line of succession, and his children are sixth and seventh in the line of succession. So therefore, you've got to ask the question: what's to be gained from this report being in the public domain? And I don't think that MI5 and MI6 wouldn't pass on information. The point
but it's
that
not
his
about not
security
passing
team is saying
on-
is that we just don't know, and no one's told us, and we're sort of acting in the dark, and it'd be much better if we did have that knowledge.
The thing is, and I'm not wholly against him having security here. He is the son of the king, and I think that puts it on a whole different level, in my opinion. However, we have a very prominent, very successful, very hardworking security services teams here who look at threats which are posed continuously. I would say there's probably hundreds of thousands of threats that are made that they have to keep across all social media platforms and the dark web, for example. They have to look at those which are credible and act on those which are credible. What they also have to do is weed out those as people just mouthing off and are never going to do anything about it. Now, when we're talking about the son of the king, Lizzie, if they thought any of these were credible threats likely to be enacted next week, would they sit there and do nothing?
No, and I think Chris is right. There's absolutely no way they wouldn't. I think what this report does, what they're trying to show with this report is the number of different types of threats that Prince Harry and his family potentially face. And when I spoke earlier about those lone actors, those are potentially, they say, a little bit more unpredictable, and you can't, you don't necessarily get as much notice in advance that they are going to potentially do something. Harry was told at the end of last year that he was going to get what is called a risk management board. He hasn't had one of those since 2020 when he stepped back as a working member of the family. His circumstances have changed a lot in that time, and he argues that he should be having these regularly, and he hasn't had one. He was told, submit a security risk assessment, and there will be a risk management board in March where we will review your security status. That hasn't happened, and he has been told that risk management boards have been paused for the foreseeable. So they haven't reviewed.
The question is why, isn't it? Why have they been paused? I kind of think that, since he left the royal family, I'm sure lots of people will be going, I'm not going to pay for his security. Why should I pay for his security? But I mean, anyone who might be attacked on the streets of the UK, that is bad for UK PLC. That's a bad look around the world, whether that's a member of the royal family or any kind of celebrity that might be here for a concert.
Yeah, and there are lots of circumstances where the Metropolitan Police have spent lots of money on protecting us, that actually for events that none of us will ever go to, like any large, big, massive football match that happens in London especially, the cost to the Metropolitan Police for keeping an eye out on adults who should know better rather than daytime drinking and causing fights. I don't particularly want to have to pay for that. I think they should all be able to behave themselves, but they clearly can't. Yeah. So there's lots of stuff for the Metropolitan Police.
Yeah, but I think, I suppose you've got to think, why haven't they just done a review? What are the threats against Harry? He is the son of the king. He did fight in Afghanistan. And if he is going to come back to his home country, why doesn't someone just do a quick review and say, actually, nah, we're going to go with the same thing? Or actually, you raise some valid points and we think you should have a little bit.
Yeah, but at least he'll feel like they're doing something. The thing I found really interesting about this report was the line where they talk about the fact that they need to have police here guarding him because his security team can't have guns. I found that really interesting for one very specific point. When we have attacks here in the UK, they very rarely involve guns or machine guns or what have you. That's not really how attacks tend to work here. So the question I have for the both of you, and I don't know if you know the answer to this or not, was it his British team or his American team that did this report?
The answer is it was an American security firm,
Okay.
which does have offices in London, but I think I would agree with you. It's probably written with an American perspective.
Yes, and I think that makes a massive difference to the way in which
You're right. You're right. And you know what they call they can't carry lethal weapons in this country like they can in America. But as you say, the threat is very different. However, other members of the royal family are protected with police officers who have guns.
Also, his security is, they say constrained. They're not able to access state security information.
But they shouldn't be able to. They're an American firm. I don't see why.
I don't think it's saying, please tell us about it.
No.
It's actually saying, this is one of the reasons why you should provide security. Rather than...
Is he saying that the threat doesn't exist when he's in the States?
Well,
because if it's a lone wolf, I would say that America has a higher proportion of lone wolves.
And there was one
than we
incident
have
actually listed in the report, wasn't there, where someone tried to get into his home armed with a hammer and duct tape. Now, I think most people will agree that's really scary. And this person was picked up by the Santa Barbara police. So, yeah, I think he is at risk in places like the US. But if you've got the FBI sharing information with his security team, as we now know, because it's written in this report, why haven't MI5 and MI6 done similar things?
We don't work like that. I assume our security services don't work like that. But it goes back to my original point that if they thought there was a credible threat that they have seen information on or have proof of, they're not going to sit there and do nothing about it.
Well, here's a question. Why did Harry feel safe to take Meghan to Nigeria and to Colombia? And you might say, hold on a minute, Colombia, has got a big problem with drugs in certain areas of the country. How come that was safe, but the UK is not? And I think the answer is it's the type of protection that you get. And we know that when we were in Ukraine with Harry, he was getting the protection of the basically presidential level protection. It was Zelensky's team that was looking after him. And therefore, I think, that argument of, well, how can you go to Ukraine and Colombia and Nigeria but not feel safe in Britain? The answer is, well, what is the government/presidential office providing for
and
you
also
in terms of security?
no president, prime minister anywhere in the world would want anything to happen to Prince Harry on their land.
And that the security firm is saying that it is an elevated risk in the UK, and all they are having
top 5 of the 6 terrorist threats.
And they're saying that all they're receiving when they come over, and when they come over for this trip, all they're being given is the number for a police liaison officer, and what he wants. And what he has said repeatedly that he wants is automatic, full police protection guaranteed when he comes over here.
I just think, I know the whole thing doesn't sit well with me for lots of different reasons. But more so, why did he say in the first place that they were coming over? All of them were coming over.
This is
it feels bizarre to me.
I think it's because they thought they were getting a review, and therefore that review would conclude. It's almost like they were jumping the gun slightly, wasn't it? That review would conclude that yes, you do need the security, and then they got this letter saying, oh, by the way, here's your number for your police protection officer, your police liaison officer, and give it a call if you've got a problem. Which I kind of think, if you've got an attack happening right in front of you, that telephone number isn't going to be particularly useful. But I think, I know you've raised this, haven't you, Lizzie, that if he were now to bring his wife and children, he's undermining his own argument that they're unsafe here.
Yeah, he has said publicly on a number of occasions how he doesn't feel like it's safe to bring Meghan and the children here until the security situation changes. And we said, as you say, on the podcast last week, we were surprised because as far as we were aware at that point, nothing had changed with the security. And then they announced it, that they were coming, and then subsequently found out, actually, there has been no change to your circumstances, despite the fact that you've given us this risk assessment that you've had done.
Yeah, and didn't I say last week in the podcast that somebody put it to me that they thought Prince Harry was trying to sort of a bit of almost like emotional blackmail. I'm going to bring my wife and kids, but if you don't give me security, then I'm going to not bring them. Perhaps that was at the back of his mind. I don't know why he announced it before getting a confirmation that security wasn't happening. And we were told it was Friday night of last week that they get a letter from RAVEC, the committee, saying, yep, no change. Here's your number for your
And
liaison officer.
and now because of that, because there's no change, he is reviewing everything. He's thinking very carefully about whether to still bring Meghan and the children to the UK. He is, we're told, looking at kind of all possible options that could
But
be
how's
there.
he feeling about the fact that they might not come?
Devastated, I think. He has said a lot that he would like his children to come to the UK, to see where he grew up, to see where he's from. But he would also really love to introduce the children to their grandfather, the king, who they haven't seen since 2022. He would love for them to have a relationship. He said that he wants family reconciliation.
As I'm sure the king would as well.
Yeah.
So I think the issue here is that the king, whatever he might think personally, and he wants to see his grandchildren, he knows he can't get involved because it's His Majesty's government, it's His Majesty's Home Office, and therefore he can't start meddling in police matters because that's not a great look.
Now, we're also told that for various visits that Harry has had to the UK, he has been offered a royal residence to stay at. He so far hasn't taken them up on that offer, but a royal residence comes with its own security.
Yes.
However, when Harry is in London and carrying out engagements or moving around, yes, there might be security at the residence, but the moment you step out of those grounds and go somewhere else, you lose that security. So,
do you know what? Do you think there's an element of, because gun attacks and what have you, the instances of that within the States is huge. Somebody dies from gun violence multiple times a day, mass violence, school shootings. When you live amongst that level of violence every single day, attempted assassinations of President Trump, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, high-profile people who are in the firing line a lot in the States. When it comes to credible threats, they can be carried out in an instant because of where those gun laws are concerned. Do you think there's an element of living amongst that within the States that has him constantly thinking about what could happen to his wife and his children, but thinking about it with an American gaze as opposed to looking at it in terms of what actually happened here?
I think this all stems back to what happened to his mother. And he will do everything in his power to protect his wife and children. And he is terrified that something might happen to them.
And then don't forget, according to Donald Trump, London is some lawless city where people are sort of running around with gangs and, it is rampant knife attacks all the time. There are knife attacks in London, very serious ones, as we all know, but we all travel in and out of work here, and it's not how Donald Trump paints this city to be. However, you've got to think about the Invictus Games, this event in Birmingham. Lots of ex-military personnel. And if you are to read this FBI intelligence, which says that there was an assassination attempt, or at least a talk of an assassination attempt against Prince Harry and anyone else who's fought in Afghanistan, him being at Invictus Games with former military personnel, isn't that something that perhaps we should think about protecting?
I mean, it's a mass event, so surely there'll be local police and stuff there anyway, as there would be for any event that involves high-profile people. Yeah, we're not a country that lets these things happen without there being.
And there's always this Taylor Swift thing, isn't it? Taylor Swift got state-funded security because there were threats against her,
and credible threats against her.
Well, so therefore,
and that's the issue.
Yeah,
and I think that's the difference that we all have to remember in this discussion. Our security services will not see credible threats and ignore them. That's not what they do. But what has the palace and the Home Office had to say about this? I mean, we can chat about it till the cows come home, but they're the ones that are in charge.
Yeah, I mean, so the issue is that the Ravek Committee has 9 members on it. 3 of the members are from the royal household. So this is why Harry thinks that these, as he calls them, men in grey suits, are holding things up. That's his accusation. As far as Buckingham Palace say, look, it's not a matter for us. We don't talk about security. The King doesn't get involved in security. That's a matter for the government. And the Home Office say there are proper procedures in place to do the review, but or to give security to the right people.
So just to confirm,
but again,
his dad can't make them do it.
Exactly.
No.
Would he like his dad to make them do it? Do you think?
I think Harry thinks his dad could, but the King is very proper when it comes to these things, and he knows his constitutional position as head of state, and it's His Majesty's government, that he can't start telling ministers or committee members or security services what should and shouldn't happen.
And the chance of it happening when his brother's in charge is probably even less.
Well, I think we can. There's one thing for sure. Whatever happens next week, I can't see Harry seeing his brother.
And nor, when they say royal residences have been offered, I've heard that Windsor's not one of those that's been offered, even though it's actually quite secure, because as we know, Prince Andrew, former Prince Andrew used to live there, who lives on the Windsor estate? Prince William.
Yeah. I can't
Princess
imagine
Wales.
there either.
I mean, I
but
think-
also, they quite like the fancy members' clubs in London, and it's quite a drive. They can stay at Buckingham Palace. No one's there at the moment. The renovations are done, aren't they? Now, that'd be
No,
pretty-
but it's still underway. But yeah.
But that's quite cool for.
And it
his
probably
son
wouldn't
and
stay
daughter,
in.
for Lilibet and Archie to stay
I mean,
in an
when you
actual
actually go
palace.
through the list, it's quite difficult, isn't it? Because you can't stay in Windsor because William's there. Buckingham Palace is being renovated. I'm sure they've probably got a few spare rooms. Could he stay at Clarence House with the king and the stepmother? Well, that's not going to happen.
that won't
either.
happen.
So you actually go through the list and you end up, okay, what about Balmoral or Sandringham?
It's a long way to get to London members'
Yeah, quite,
clubs from
yeah.
Balmoral. So bless him. Hey,
But I think,
come
mean,
stay with me.
I think,
you? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Harry will be here next week. It's just, I think it still remains up in the air as to whether
There's other
Meghan
stuff happening with
the-
Harry.
And he's
next
really,
week,
really
isn't
upset
there?
about that. He's really upset because he really wanted to bring Meghan and his children here.
Yeah.
And
I think
at
there
the
was
moment
also-
it's TBC. We simply don't know. As we record this podcast, we do not know.
I think there was also a high chance, and this hasn't been confirmed to us, that they could have potentially gone and stayed with Uncle Charles Spencer as well at Althorpe.
I mean, if you are to look on their website, it is closed for a couple of days next week.
It
to the
is. We know
public,
that he has a very
so-
close relationship with the Spencer family, and Althorpe isn't.
Do you know, is it really weird that none of them seem to have flown over to go and see him? Like, I know there's lots of chat about the kids meeting their family here.
Yeah.
But aeroplanes do exist in other directions.
Yeah, I was talking to a senior palace aide this week who was saying, and again, this is perhaps them freelancing rather than saying it from a palace point of view, but saying, wouldn't it have been actually not a bad idea if when the king was in Washington and New York, that Harry just could have flown over and just met Pa for a bit? Neutral territory, not California, not London. Could he have
Also,
squeezed in a cup of tea?
But we know
with his
how.
son?
I mean, the king's schedule in America
I get that.
was
But he's also got lots of other members of
very
his
busy.
family who could equally
Go and see
fly
him.
over and go and see them.
And we know how well Meghan looks after her guests because she puts
Wow.
flowers and sprinkles things on eggs
the full
and
shebang.
and the whatever it is that the tea is infused in the Californian sunshine, isn't it?
Yeah.
You watched all those
I just
episodes.
find it a bit
salts?
weird.
Bath salts.
Bath soaps. You like the rose petal stuff. I just think it's really strange that there's so much focus on him bringing his family here,
yeah.
but not a lot of chat about the fact that not a single member of his family seems to want to buy a ticket and fly in the other direction. To be honest, that would annoy me more if I were him. That would annoy me more.
You wonder, wasn't it? Like, oh, Harry, can I come and see you? And what's the answer? Oh, actually, Meghan doesn't want anything to do with the royal family, so no. Or it's a
I
bad
just
look.
think
I mean, what is it?
expect,
Yeah.
and they are a family that loves to fly internationally, but the internationally doesn't seem to involve flying out to LA. I just find it weird. Right, that's it for today, but we will be back with another episode over the weekend because there has been so much going on in the world of the royals this week. We'll have a bit more information of what Harry's going to be doing next week, actually. So keep an eye out for that and make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. But until then, bye-bye.